the capacity of the left to make unverified and unverifiable assertions is remarkable. And what is equally remarkable is the fact that more often than not, these assertions are taken as gospel truth. I'll begin with a very small example. A few years ago, in fact, a few decades ago, in the late 80s, 90s, when the Indian public broadcaster Doordarshan broadcast mythological serials Ramayana and Mahabharata, they started saying that this was an attempt to saffronize the country, to Hinduize the country, and it's a communal conspiracy, and such things were said. There was no basis for these statements. There was no survey done. There was no investigation done. It was just said, and it was widely believed by the media, by opinion makers, by most of the people. This was one example. There are many other examples. When the Green Revolution happened in India in 60s, 70s, they said that the Green Revolution will turn red. Again, whatever they said, as usual, turned to be wrong. Green Revolution proved a great boon for the country, especially for the farm sector. But they said, and it was widely believed, aise hi hoga. When economic reforms started, they said that these reforms are anti-poor. They will destroy the country. The multinationals, if allowed, they will swamp the country, and they will Indian businesses will be gobbled up, and there will be many East India companies that would take over India. What actually happened was that Indian companies themselves became multinationals, and they acquired many companies all over the world, including in America, including in Europe. But still, as I said, they make assertions and they are taken to be true. And they are not only true, our intellectual class, our opinion makers, columnists, great editors, academics, they blindingly accept these statements, and in turn they start disseminating them. Now, the second thing is that these statements often have the ring of they are intended to kind of to spread some kind of fear psychosis among the people. As I said, Green Revolution will turn red, economic reforms, BJP, if the BJP is rising, the country will. Now BJP is of course just a replica of the Nazi party, which would murder Muslims as the Nazis did, killed Jews. Again, these things are said and widely accepted. And what I call, they have developed a kind of industry, the industry of crying wolf. And these theories, these conspiracy theories, outlandish doctrines, they have a certain charm about them. People love to know, aise ho jayega. So these things, now I have studied this phenomenon, how the leftists not only make these assertions, they are taken to be true, and even over the years when they are proved to be wrong, they continue to be the leftists and such intellectuals, left-leaning intellectuals. They are often seen in awe and considered to be people who have seen the future. They always see the future. Well, leftists are often wrong, but never in doubt. They are always right, or that's what they think, and widely it's also seen like that. They employ various techniques. One is the how do they become successful? Well, one thing is that they they have many techniques. One of them is uh, which is defined by a Latin term called argumentum ad hominem. Argumentum ad hominem means it's a form of argumentation in which the argument is not attacked, but the arguer is. You don't attack, you don't logically logically reply to his arguments, but you impute motives to the opponent. For instance, if somebody says that suppose 1 year ago somebody had said that Modi would be a good prime minister, the person would have been accused as being communal, bigoted, fascistic, and Modi is bad, he killed Muslims, so that kind of thing. Now, not only that, no arguments. It won't be said that how will he be good for the country, his programs, policies, not that. The person who made the statement, he would be attacked. So this technique has been widely, this is applied every day. If somebody says that economic reforms are good, or say there should be labor reforms, because in India 90% of labor is in the unorganized sector, and 10%, 8 to 10% of the workforce, which is unionized, is covered by these laws, and they should be more flexible. Now, the immediate response, I mean, there won't be any argument, or rarely any argument. If you say so, you would be called a stooge of FICCI, CII, big industry, multinationals, America, World Bank, IMF, all kinds of things. So this is one technique that they employ, argumentum ad hominem. Attack the arguer, attack the opponent, not the argument he presents. So this is a very important thing to remember. Then they have this project which I called the Denigrate Hinduism project. Now, we are told in our textbooks, newspapers, at least the edit pages, op-ed pages, by the big people, big editors on television, that Hinduism is the, well, it's pretty bad. We have a caste system, we have untouchability, or at least had untouchability. We treated the lower castes very badly, and Hindus are retrograde. There was a term called Hindu rate of growth. Now, ironically, the Hindu rate of growth, which meant that basically that India, which is a Hindu-dominated country, cannot grow beyond 3.5%. So because they are basically lazy, slothful people, unimaginative, they can't do much about anything. And this was employed by the left, who actually hate Hindus. That's another story anyway. Now, this an important part of this Denigrate Hinduism project is the left's control over historiography. Now, we are told that, as I said, Hindus are slothful, lazy, and they are society is ridden with inequalities. They poured molten lead into the ears of Shudras who were unfortunate enough to hear Vedic shloks and such things we have been told about. Now, what these people have done is that the leftists, they try to downplay the achievements of Hindu India and magnify the problems it had earlier in those days. Now, I'll just give an example of I'll mention a book called All These Years. It was written by Raj Thapar, who happened to be sister-in-law of Romila Thapar, the historian. And her husband was Romesh Thapar, who was ITDC chairman, who was, which was kind of NAC of Indira Gandhi in those days, except that they were more educated people, and Romesh Thapar was very upper type of, came from that class. Was related to General Thapar, by the way. Now, she mentioned that her memoirs, I am reading from that, sitting with Mohan Kumar Mangalam, who was an important communist leader, sitting with Mohan Kumar Mangalam once, having a cup of tea, he asked me what I had named my daughter. When I said Malavika, he rolled those marble black eyes of his and said, "You better be careful, Raj. That's a reactionary name. And like this, you might slowly find yourself on the other side of the fence." I was aghast and controverted with him, passionately explaining how I had kept this name locked securely in my consciousness ever since I read Kalidas's Malavika Agnimitra in college. Now, it was, as I said, it was not just those inequalities and the awful things our Dharma Shastras, some of the things that they said, but everything. I mean, even Kalidas was bad, Khajuraho. I presume everything. The idea was to denigrate everything. It was not the inequalities, some inequalities or other. Now, along with this thing comes how India was conquered by Muslims. Now, that is another a recurring theme. And again, the same thing comes up. How it was because Hindu society was iniquitous, it was divided, it was, and caste, of course. And we are told that the prince, in a book by Khalik Ahmad Nizami, which was published by People's Publishing House, a pro-communist setup. Now, the historian writes that the Rajput polity was weakened by incessant bickerings, but this political system, continues Nizami, reflected the basic weakness of the social structure of the time. So, this thing comes up again and again, and we are presented Islam as something which was an egalitarian, a revolutionary religion which came to India and it conquered, and because of the egalitarian nature of Islam, that Hindus lost. Hindus were, of course, iniquitous and that kind of people. Now, this is untrue. There's a book called Caste, its 20th Century Avatar, edited by prominent sociologist M.N. Srinivas and published by Viking, in which Zarina Bhatti studied the one village in UP, and she said that among the Muslims, if a person accidentally touches an individual of an unclean caste, the former must purify himself with a simple bath, particularly prior to performing a religious function like saying namaz, reading the Quran, or entering a mosque. Now, what I am saying is that these things, inequalities, have existed in the past, they still do exist in our society all over the world, to a much less extent today than it was in those days, in the 12th, 13th centuries, even in the 19th century. My point is that inequalities existed everywhere, they still do, but Hindu society was made a particular target. I mean, and for very specific reason, which I'll come to later. Now, similarly, this what leftist historians did, the communists did, was that they appropriated Gandhi. In a way, everybody, every political party, every institution, even organizations, they have tried to appropriate and did have appropriated Gandhi. Gandhi is a big industry. That's another story. Now, communists, but they were not always very favorably inclined towards Gandhi. For instance, M.N. Roy said in 1922, the imminent collapse of Gandhism will close a romantic and exciting chapter of Indian national movement. It will demonstrate that a socially revolutionary movement cannot be influenced by reactionary forces. In 1927, Rajni Pamdat wrote, another communist leader, This spiritually reactionary propaganda of Gandhism is an enemy of the interest of the masses. In 1931, he wrote, Gandhism is already dying. In 1942, Dutt called Gandhi the pacifist evil genius of Indian politics. And that to all that is young and generous in India, the name of Gandhi is an object of cursing and contempt. The name of Judas. Judas is one of the villains in Christian theology who is supposed to have implicated Jesus Christ, which led to his crucifixion. Now, so this is P.C. Joshi wrote, Gandhism is that was in 1942. Gandhism is the path of negation, the outlook of negation, the policy of passivity, and the practice of subservience. This is Gandhism today. Now, all this changed after 1948, after his assassination, Gandhi's assassination. Then the same Rajni Pamdat who had said such things, nasty things about Gandhi, they said, referring to Gandhi's efforts just before his death to quell communal violence, he said that, yeah, these Dutt and these people, other communists, they realized that his Gandhi's assassination can be used to further their own political ends. And then today you have communist parties talking about Gandhi and his contribution and his passion for communal harmony and such things. So this is their character. But again, as I said, they continue to be taken seriously. The communists, leftists, all left-leaning intellectuals. Now, history writing. Now, historiography, as I said, their historiography, their influence on historiography started growing with the rise of Congress. When India became independent and Congress became the ruling party. Now, what they did was that, now let's examine the case of Bipin Chandra, the historian who was the embodiment of the Congress left partnership. His other works, a very important work, Modern India, it's prescribed by the National Council of Educational Research and Training for the students of 11th and 12th. Now, the basic theme of Bipin Chandra is that communalism is a great evil, if not the greatest evil. Now, such phraseology may confuse people in the Anglo-Saxon world, because in reality communalism does not have any negative connotation. In India, communalism means something which is equated with bigotry, intolerance, such things. It's not so in England, in the US, Australia, in the entire English-speaking world. It's only in India that this word has acquired such meanings. In Bipin Chandra's history became a kind of morality play in which communalism was bad and secularism was good, or is rather. And everything which is bad in the world is associated with communalism. Now this is again a problem, because secularism and communalism are not, they are not antonyms that way. Secularism has a different connotation. And basically what Bipin Chandra and other communist historians did was, they associated communalism with the BJP, or earlier it was Bharatiya Janata Sangh. They associated communalism with Hindu nationalism, and they made them appear interchangeable, the same one and the same thing. That was their project, and this project was very important for them, because the Hindu nationalist parties Today there is on primarily BJP and Shiv Sena, but there were also earlier the Ram Rajya Party and Hindu Mahasabha also had members in parliament. Even in 1951, when the first elections were held, the Hindu nationalist parties at that time they had the smallest share of vote, that was around 6%, and over the years it grew. So the basic issue was the Congress wanted that 6% or that Hindu parties to be demonized and marginalized. That was the idea. So if you are able to keep the Hindu parties apart from other political parties, it would be very difficult to form to have an alternative to the Congress. And they succeeded to a large extent. They still succeed these days, but it's a measure of their success that for the first 30 years, Congress ruled the country in an uninterrupted manner. There was no interruption in its rule, despite very obvious failings on all fronts: economic, political, national defense, and on every front it had failed, but it continued its rule. And this was primarily because of this left Congress alliance, because the left, and especially the leftist historians, they provided the intellectual ballast, they provided the masala to keep political discourse, public discourse, such that nobody would be willing to join hands with the Bharatiya Janasangh, as it was in the Hindu nationalist parties, I would say. And it took the tyranny of Indira Gandhi, the abrogation of all fundamental rights, total misrule, double-digit inflation in the mid-70s, such horrible things, and the towering personality of Jayaprakash Narayan, which brought all the political, that is non-Congress parties together, then Janata Party and 1977, the first time it was ousted. But again they came back to, and again that communal thing, and by the way, the Janata Party also broke on that issue, that communal, that RSS, dual membership and these things. So my point is that leftist historiography and other left-wing, other tactics by leftists, they proved a crucial role. They played a crucial role in keeping the BJP Hindu nationalist parties marginalized. So, so that was the raison d'etre, the rationale of the Congress left alliance. Now, left-wing, this historiography, their influence on historiography was such that it also did something else. It kept socialism and because these were the guys, they were writing history books, they presented, and historians and others also, other departments and universities, political science and sociology, and so that Lal Salam type of historiography and intellectual discourse, we were told that socialism, communism are great ideologies and they are panaceas for mankind, and if capitalism of course is bad and it has to be replaced with socialism. And of course what they did not tell us was that over 100 million people died under socialist and communist regimes. 30 million people, around 30 million in Soviet Union, cradle of communism. About that, double that number, 60 to 70 million in China and many other countries. In Cambodia, there are various estimates, but widely it is, I mean, the most authentic estimates are that between 20 to 35 or 40% people, 20 to 35% of people died during that Pol Pot regime in the late 70s. We were never told these things. We came to know about, through net or other books. NCRT books never informed us about the horrors that communism has unleashed in this world. By the way, that these numbers, the people killed because of communism, is more than the two world wars. The people killed in two world wars. Another thing was that all this, when this left-wing historians, they had their such was their sway. It was kind of mafia. It was a left-wing mafia that ruled academics and academia, and they practically banished all historians, other historians who did not agree with them, and I would say the genuine historians like Sir Jatunath Sarkar, R.C. Majumdar, K.S. Lal, Sitaram Goyal. They were just banished. They nobody. And they were not only that, they were also declared as communal, as bigoted people who had a partial, who blinkered views and such things. Obviously, this suited the Congress. And now I'll come to the what these people taught us. I'll quote at some length from a book called The Story of Civilization by Arjun Dev, one of those Lal Salam types. This is for class 11 and 12, and in the chapter Socialist Movement and the Russian Revolution. He wrote, the October Revolution had been almost completely peaceful. Only two persons were reported killed in Petrograd. Now further he went on to say that the overthrow of autocracy and destruction of the aristocracy and the power of the church were the first achievements of the Russian Revolution. The second was the building of the world's first socialist society. The Tsarist Empire was transformed into a new state called the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. The politics of the new state were directed to the realization of the socialist ideal, from each according to his capacity to each according to his work. Private property was abolished and all these things. In short, I mean, one would surmise that in 1917 there was a paradise on earth which suddenly appeared in a country called Russia. Now, what obviously Arjun Dev did not mention was the word called Cheka, which was a secret police, and the horrors. It was a murderous security agency that Lenin created, and I'll quote a historian, Paul Johnson, who he wrote in Modern Times. While the last Tsars had executed an average of 17 a year of all crimes by 17 people executed per year by the Tsars. By 1819, the Cheka was averaging 1,000 executions a month for political offences alone. I mean, the others and forget about others. Now, another historian, an eyewitness, he estimated that more than 50,000 death sentences was carried out by the Cheka by the end of 1920. So this is what communists did. We have never been told, we have never been informed about these things. And communism is a great ideology, it's a great, that's what we have been told. Now I come to another weapon, I call, another technique by which the left strengthens its stranglehold over public opinion. It's guilt mongering. Guilt mongering and this I call a weapon of mass deception. Now, this is used as a some kind of, in military terminology, there is a term called softening the target. So when there is a when an assault has to be made, the infantry goes forward. So by shelling, heavy shelling, by aircraft or even by ships, the place where the foot soldiers go, that is made more amenable and softening the target. So this I call this weapon of mass deception. This plays that role. It basically, what it does is it makes all of us feel guilty. As I said earlier, Hindu society, I mean, there are such terrible things in Manusmriti and Dharma Shastras, and so we have internalized some of those things. Now, I will not say that guilt is a bad thing. In fact, I think that guilt is very human. Guilt is something which makes us human because it makes us feel as individuals and as collective or in collectivity about what bad we have done. So it's not something bad, but excess of anything is bad. So that is what they do. I mean, Ashok was from a conquering violent king, emperor. He was uh, he was ridden with guilt, remorse. That's how he became a Buddhist, and he did many things of public welfare. In Christianity, there is the concept of original sin, and that's how. So guilt is in all civilization or most of civilizations, guilt is something which is there. What these people do is, the leftists, they keep telling us about all the bad things and keep repeating them. Leftists, as I said, this how the lower caste people were treated, the so-called lower caste people earlier in Middle Ages and even today. So this is, or free market economy. They keep us telling how bad it is, how capitalists are bad, and how they are in nexus with uh, politicians, leaders, and how they get policies made, remade, changed for their own benefit. It's not wrong, but what but by doing this, what leftists are doing is actually they are they are undermining the faith of people in the market economy or in their own society, Hindu society, or anything. Now, what is interesting is that so we have guilt all over the world. It's not just it's Hindu guilt or the guilt of capitalism or the American guilt for the slavery which was there till the middle of 19th century, or the British guilt, Western guilt because of imperialism. So guilt is all over the world. Japanese guilt because of the terrible things that they did during and before the Second World War. But there is no Arab guilt. Arabs, by the way, were the greatest, biggest slavers. It's always that we talk about Atlantic trade, the slave trade across the Atlantic, and how the whites did that. The Portuguese, the Spanish, how they destroyed civilizations in Latin America, but never about Arabs, how they destroyed the civilizations. I mean, Persian Revolution was a great civilization. It's nowhere. I mean, it's now Iran. It's like it's a Muslim country, and people are not supposed to be proud of. The Islamic State is still smashing the temples of biblical era. So there is no Arab guilt. There is no Muslim guilt. The things that the Muslims have done all over the world, including in India. They did destroy temples. These are historical facts. And as one of the panelists here, Dr. Coinrad Elst also mentioned, that negationist attitude is still there. हुआ ही नहीं था. Romila Thapar even wrote a book that Somnath temple में attack भी नहीं हुआ. No, this is like something to that effect. This was, I think, latest thing a few years ago. No, how much you can negate? I mean, you just have to go to visit any of the temples. Or not many are surviving. In North India, hardly any ancient temples are there. But wherever you go, you would see the noses have been flattened, because if you break the nose, then it becomes the idol becomes Hindus can't worship it, and because there were so many of the idols, so Muslims found it difficult to break all of them. So they just smashed noses and काम हो गया, इसी में काम चल गया, because now they won't be able to worship those idols. So both chicken वाला काम हो गया. So this thing, they these things now again, if somebody talks about it, whether it is Arun Shourie or Subramanian Swamy, they are communal, they are fascists. अरे भाई हुआ तो है ना. I mean, nobody is saying that kill Muslims for what their ancestors did in the 13th, 14th or 15th centuries. No, that's not the point. But we should know that, and they should also know that. I mean, if our ancestors, or at least ancestors of upper caste people, they did terrible things, okay, it's written. So what? I mean, if Plato, Aristotle, great philosophers, they justified slavery. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't read or study Plato. Plato, by the way, is he is kind of synonymous with philosopher, Platonic. Aflatun is in Hindi, Urdu, it's called Aflatun. हम कहते हैं ना, Aflatun समझता है अपने आप को. So Plato is the philosopher. So so many philosophers. I mean, in ancient India, in ancient world. So these things happen. I mean, there's no point in denying these things. But guilt, all these things are denied all the time. Now, another technique is making facts and controversies interchangeable. Now it's a fact, Muslim invasion is a fact, and not one but many invasions, but raise questions, and when it comes to the breaking of temples, impute motives which are political and economic. नहीं नहीं, वो तो ऐसा नहीं था, वो तो इसलिए नहीं, because it was not because of Islam, but he was in any case a dakat, so he wanted the gold, and temples had a lot of gold. So this is, and then it becomes a controversy. The fact becomes a controversy, and then pick up some controversy and then make it a fact. What happened in those times? Did he was the motive really religious or economic? Or now these are the facts become controversies. Now they make their own controversial statements, or they come up with theories which have no, which are not grounded in reality, or which are not widely acknowledged facts, or widely acknowledged to be true. For instance, the theories of big state, of socialism. We are told that the public sector, big state, state intervention in economy, that will be good. These are all controversial things, because there is no consensus about them, but they are accepted and they are presented as facts. Then there is the now rules and exceptions are also made interchangeable. Now, destruction of temples was kind of was a recurring theme in the dealings of Muslim rulers with in India with Hindus, killings of Hindus, enslaving women and children. These were, I mean, they are widely reported and they have been chronicled by their own historians. It's not that the Hindus anyway don't write much history even today, unfortunately. So they their own courtiers that they wrote, but as I said, present those downplay the Islamic zeal involved in it, downplay all these things, and some remote fact, some remote instance are mentioned. Some Hindu king destroyed one Jain temple somewhere, or some Buddhist, some instance of some reported discrimination against Buddhists, which is not corroborated by other sources. Those things are presented as facts, as rules. So they are rules and exceptions are made interchangeable. And what we are presented is that भाई ये तो ऐसे ही होते हैं, राजे महाराजे तो ऐसे ही होते हैं. Of course, to a large extent, that's right. They are like that only. Kings are rulers rule, and the ruled are ruled. That's right. And there is exploitation wherever there are kings. So that's not to deny that fact. But such things also happen in leftist historiography. Facts and controversies are made interchangeable, rules and exceptions are made interchangeable. Now, against this backdrop, what can we do, all of us? Well, for this, some kind of organization is, I mean, bodies like India Inspires, and there are many other organizations. They have to spread word. That is one thing, of course. Now, I believe that industry, big business, business in general, businessmen. In India, businessmen, what they do is they, for them, philanthropy or charity means building some temple, or they generally are not aware of something called enlightened self-interest. Industry, business, industrialists, businessmen, they don't come together for, they won't come together to create a climate of opinion which is against socialism, which is for free market, or a polity which is grounded in the customs and mores of this country. They won't do that. They, for their own particular things, for they would lobby in Lutyens Daily. They will get policies made or remade according to their own requirements, and that's it. And for charity and such things, they would rather build a temple, and that's it. So they are not much into this. By the way, industrialists were in India, the Hindu nationalist parties are also said to be right wing, but I really doubt that. But anyway, the real right wing party, I think, was Swatantra Party, and industry did not support it very in a big way. They supported the Congress. They continue to, so they still do, because it's easy to support the Congress. And actually, what people say crony capitalism is crony socialism, because established business houses, businessmen, they want such things. They want policies which can be. They want a big state. They want big government, because they would be they can always lobby to get policies modeled according to their convenience. So my point is that industry and business have to come together to do something about it. And another thing is that society also has to regenerate itself, Hindu society. I mean. What I find all around is certain kind of teeny bopper attitude, hoo hoo ha ha type of. I mean, people are very they are like they are guided by emotions, sentiments. They are so fickle in everything. India wins a match. Dhoni is a hero and he's God, and all cricketers are gods. 2 days later, they lose a match. They become demons. चोर हैं इनको गोली मार दो. There is no. Cricketers are human beings. I mean, this is one example. What I'm saying is that we should have some kind of sobriety, some poise in our public life, and this can only happen when people, I mean, society, democracy, these are all about people. If people are fickle, they are guided by such emotions. Somebody comes, देश का ऐसे हो जाएगा, बर्बाद हो जाएगा, ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी आ जाएगी, फॉरेन FDI आ गया तो हम बर्बाद हो जाएंगे. We are fickle. We don't read. I mean, एक भर्तृहरि का एक श्लोक है उनका, एक संस्कृत के पोएट हुए हैं, साहित्य संगीत कला विहीन. उनका कहना है कि anybody who is bereft of literature, music and arts, a human being he's not human actually, he is a tailless beast. That's what Bhartrhari says. So what I'm saying is that if people in our country or any other country for that matter, they don't look beyond the immediate, beyond their the immediate requirements. If there's no refinement in life, which is very little I tell you, in our country. Middle class, how many middle class households you will find a book rack? The people who have all accessories, the widest television sets and the best of tiles and Italian marble and all kinds of luxuries. How many of them have bookshelves? They don't read. I mean, how many of them I have seen people who are millionaires and billionaires and who you discuss with them about a book, they would say, yaar padh ke mere ko de dena. I mean, the guy can buy car accessories worth thousands of rupees, lakhs of rupees, and cars, or he would go for the highest model, but for 200 rupees he would borrow a book. So what I'm saying is these are attitudes. So our attitude is the kind of television serials we have, Saas Bahu type serials. So that refinement is missing. So that, you can't do anything. India Inspires and other organizations can only help do it, but that is people at large they have to do. And finally, I would say that how to stop the left's hegemony, so to speak, is always doubt them. Whenever they say something, consider that to be the statement of a Pakistan foreign minister. I mean, it's a lie unless proven true. So it has to be accepted like that, because they speak untruth all the time. Their entire ideology is about mendacity, about lies. So we have to be careful about that. So that's it. Thank you.